folks, it's Friday. Welcome from Prescott, Arizona. Good to see you here. Let's do some talking today. So, during the Iraq War, the Army decided, hey, it would be a good idea to kind of start doing resiliency training, they called it. And if you know what resilience is, folks, it's the ability to bounce back. Not just recover, but bounce back. All right? And so that was pushed really hard. A lot of different training classes. A few kind of flopped. There were a few that were awesome that weren't used, but eventually they settled on one resiliency program and just taught soldiers how to, even though life's hard, they're going through a hard time, whether in combat, whether back at the house, whether when they get out of the Army. It was how to bounce back from trials and tribulations and just hardship in general, from the weight and burden of war. So I think it was good to bring that all in, definitely, because it focused on an element of how God made us that's very important. See, He made us, our bodies, our minds, to be resilient. That's how He made us. That's how we're wired, is for human beings to be resilient. Heard a story, and this was kind of when we were doing the training. A story was talking about an incident in Vietnam where a platoon had come into contact, got in a firefight, and they had two wounded soldiers. One had just all across his chest wounds. I mean, shrapnel, gunshots, and was definitely, on the ground. They were working on him, and medevacs were called. So as the helicopter's coming in, they're bandaging him up. Well, at the same time, the lieutenant who had been with the group had also received a very small gunshot wound in the shoulder. I mean, it was not life-threatening at all. But there was a difference in the approach that the two wounded soldiers took as they were getting loaded onto the helicopter. So the sergeant who had been hit hard was kind of just, his whole talk wasn't like, oh my God, I'm dying. It was very much like, just leave me alone, just let me rub some dirt on it, I'm okay, let's keep going. And they're like, no, Sarge, you're hit pretty bad. We cannot just leave you or you're being medevac. As opposed to the lieutenant who had been hit in the arm, his whole attitude was, I'm dying, this is the end, I'll never use my arm again, it's over. So both men get in the helicopter. The medevac takes off and gets back to the MASH, the hospital. And as it's landing, the team that's about to go out and get the stretchers is basically informed that we've got one dead on arrival and we've got one wounded. Now you would think, okay, the dead on arrival was probably the sergeant who had been shot up and just ripped apart. Folks, the dead on arrival, for some reason, was the lieutenant. His mind had been nowhere near what it needed to be for his situation. He had died of a wound that was that was nothing, just a scratch, a flesh wound. All right? It was the sergeant who had been just ripped apart that got brought in, worked on, survived. Not only survived, went back home, rebuilt his life, big business, strong, successful business, and lived up into his 90s, folks. Or not his 90s, but it basically lived a very long life before he finally passed a few years back here. It's amazing, folks, to see what the difference of how we think and how we approach life. We have to understand we are resilient. Again, as I said before, that's how God has wired us. I want to read something to you here. This is from Psalms 139, starting with verse 13 here. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. Folks, we're wonderfully made. Our minds, our bodies. There's a lot going on in this world today. A lot going on. We're told to fear things. We're told, hey, be fearful of this. But a lot of people don't understand at this point that God created something very awesome here. with our bodies. The things that we can go through, we shouldn't be able to go through. Look up stories on survival and how people have been out and managed to survive conditions that every scientist would say, no, that guy should be dead, or that person should be dead because of what they went through. Folks, when it comes to God, God is in control. He made us resilient. He made us wonderfully made. We are able to stand many different things. Basically, I'm just saying today, folks, is get down on your knees and pray and say, Lord, especially if you're going through a hard time, if you're depressed, bummed out, you're hating yourself. No. You are wonderfully made. If you're looking around you, getting fearful about what's going on in the world today, say, no, wait. They're telling me that I walk out of the house, I'm going to die immediately. Folks, that's not how God designed it. Man doesn't sit there and dictate to God what happens in this life. It's God that looks down and says, no, this is how it is. All we got to do is turn to God and say, that's my goal. Be like Jesus. Follow God with all of our hearts. And the fear melts away. Peace is given. And we can go on doing what we have to do on the face of this earth. Bring Christ to others and live our lives as God has put them before us. All right, folks, I want you to be good today. Enjoy, and we'll actually see you next week because the weekend's coming up here. Hopefully we get the Jeep out. Walk like lions, folks. Be good.